Most people think they understand Can Yaman because they know one role, one era, or one viral clip. But in 2026, that picture is way too small. Can Yaman is no longer just one type of leading man, one market, or one genre. In this video, we're going through 7 shows that help you truly understand his career journey. From romantic comedy breakout to international action and big-scale period drama. And if you enjoy clear, respectful videos like this, subscribe for more. To understand Can Yaman in 2026, you cannot start at the finish line. You have to look at the road. Because what makes his career interesting is not just that he became popular. It's how different parts of his screen identity were built over time. The charm people notice today did not appear out of nowhere. The confidence, the physical presence, the comic timing, the intensity, the international appeal. Those things were shaped across different projects, each one revealing a different layer. That is why this is not simply a list of his best shows. This is a guide to understanding the full picture. If someone is new to Can Yaman, or if someone only knows one phase of his career, these are the titles that explain why he became such a recognizable name across different countries and audiences. The first show you need is Ina Dina Ask. This is where you start if you want to see the raw early energy. Before the bigger international wave, before the polished global image, this is the phase where you can feel a leading man presence taking shape. There is something very useful about going back to an earlier project like this, because you can see the foundation before the fame becomes bigger than the performance itself. In this kind of role, what stands out is not perfection. It is spark. You can already see the charisma, the confidence, and that natural ability to fill the frame. When people later talk about star quality, this is the kind of project that helps explain where that feeling began. It is the early signal. Then comes Daydreamer. And this is where you start seeing a more refined romantic lead. If Ina Dina Ask gives you raw momentum, Daydreamer gives you control. This is an important step because it shows how Can Yaman began to fit more smoothly into the modern romantic comedy formula that audiences love. The appeal here is not just looks or attitude. It is structure. There is rhythm in the scenes, a cleaner balance between distance and attraction, and a more polished kind of screen presence. This is the kind of show that helps you understand why he became so effective in romance-driven storytelling. It is not only about being noticeable. It is about being watchable over time. That is a different skill. And then, of course, you have Erkenci Kuss, Daydreamer. If someone asks, which show changed everything? This is the answer. This is the project that turned strong potential into full international breakout. It is the show that made the wider audience lock in. And the reason it matters so much is that it brought together everything that was already building. Charm, timing, chemistry, emotional playfulness, visual presence, and a character dynamic people could instantly connect to. This was not just a successful series. It became a comfort show, a discovery show, and for many viewers, the entry point into Can Yaman's world. That matters. Because once a show becomes the entry point for international fandom, it stops being just another title. It becomes a reference point. What makes Daydreamer even more important is that it shaped audience memory. Even years later, when people compare projects, pairings, moods, or emotional energy, they often do it through the lens of this show. That tells you something deeper than popularity. It tells you that the series created a lasting emotional imprint. So if you want to understand why Can Yaman still carries such a strong romantic screen identity in the minds of so many viewers, you cannot skip Daydreamer. It is one of the core pillars. After that, Bae Yanli's Mr. Wrong becomes a very interesting chapter. Because this is where you see a more mature rom-com image. By this point, Can Yaman is no longer just the exciting rising lead. He is a recognized screen persona. That changes the energy. The audience is not only discovering him anymore, they are arriving with expectations. And that means the performance has to carry a different kind of pressure. Mr. Wrong is useful because it shows what happens when a romantic lead starts playing from a more established position. The confidence is more relaxed. The attitude feels more deliberate. The star image is now part of the role itself. In other words, this is not the beginning of the rom-com era. It is the more self-aware version of it. But if you only watch the Turkish romantic comedy phase, you still do not fully understand Can Yaman in 2026. Because the next major shift is geographic and tonal. That is where Viola cum il mare becomes essential. This show matters because it represents transition. It tells you that the story is no longer limited to one national TV identity or one familiar genre space. Moving into an Italian production environment, and into a character with a more investigative, more dramatic edge, changes the frame completely. Suddenly, the question is not just, can he carry romance? The question becomes, can he operate in a different television culture, a different language environment, and a different tonal world? That is a much bigger test. And that is why Viola cum il mare is such an important checkpoint. It is not just another title to add to the list. It is proof of expansion. It shows adaptability. It shows that the career was not staying still. It was trying to move. When an actor begins to cross into another market and still remain central, that is when the conversation changes from popularity to international viability. That distinction matters a lot. Then you arrive at El Turco, and this is where ambition becomes impossible to ignore. Because El Turco is not just a new role, it is a new scale of challenge. Historical drama, action, international positioning, and a much more demanding tonal atmosphere all come together here. This is one of those projects that tells the audience very clearly. The career is trying to grow beyond the comfort zone. And that is what makes it such a key title in understanding Can Yaman today. If Daydreamer explains the breakout, El Turco explains the push for range and larger positioning. This kind of project also changes how people read an actor. In lighter romantic work, the audience often focuses on chemistry, charm, and mood. In a project like El Turco, the lens shifts toward discipline, intensity, physical commitment, and credibility in a more serious world. That does not erase the earlier image. It adds to it. It tells viewers that there is an effort to stretch beyond what first made him famous. And whether someone prefers one era or another, that attempt itself is part of the story. Finally, you have Sandokan. And in many ways, this is the show that brings the whole career arc into one frame. Because Sandokan is not small. It is not casual. It is not just another title in the schedule. It is the kind of role that carries mythology, legacy, pressure, and event-level expectations. This is where Can Yaman is no longer simply being watched as a popular actor. He is being positioned as the center of a large-scale iconic project. That is a different level of responsibility. Sandokan matters because it combines multiple dimensions of his career at once. It has the physicality people associate with him. It has the dramatic ambition that larger productions demand. It has international attention. And it also has symbolic weight, because iconic characters come with history. When an actor takes on a role like that, the audience is not just watching a new performance. They are measuring whether he can inhabit something bigger than his own image. That is why Sandokan is such a defining title in 2026. It is not just part of the journey. Feels like a culmination point. So when you step back and look at all 7 shows together, a much clearer picture appears. Anadina Ask shows the early spark. Dalyane shows a more polished romantic lead. Daydreamer shows the breakout that changed everything. Mr. Wrong shows a more mature and self-aware rom-com persona. Viola cum il mare shows the cross-market transition. El Turco shows international ambition and tonal expansion. And Sandokan shows event-level positioning, the sense that the career has moved into a much larger arena. That is why one show is never enough to explain Can Yaman. If someone only knows the romantic comedy side, they miss the expansion. If someone only knows the action or period side, they miss the emotional groundwork that built the fan connection in the first place. And if someone only watches the newest projects, they miss the path that made those bigger opportunities possible. The real story in 2026 is not that Can Yaman has one identity. It is that his career has been built in layers. One project gives you chemistry. Another gives you polish. Another gives you scale. Another gives you risk. Another gives you legacy. Put them together, and you understand why he continues to stay relevant across different audiences and different countries. So if someone asks where they should start, the best answer is not one title. The best answer is this journey. Start with a spark, move through the breakout, and then watch how the image grows larger, heavier, and more international with each step. That is how you understand Can Yaman in 2026. Not through one role, but through the full evolution. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more clear and respectful updates on Can Yaman, his projects, and the bigger meaning behind the headlines.